But we are at the point of universal service, and that is, we are at the point where we can reach the maximum benefits of telecommunications. So we need to be really concerned about how we handle the situation right now. And then education and skill level of the workforce, business environment must be conducive to reap the benefits of telecommunications fully. This has been shown in studies in Africa, where the skill and the education level was very low. Telecommunication development was not very rapid. So in relation to all this, where are we? As you know, we saw in the morning, Sri Lanka has special characteristics. Sri Lanka never achieved critical mass in telephone penetration in the traditional sense, but we leapfrogged into nearly 100% penetration with mobile phones. And so we have universal service. And we have been a trailblazer in the region, right? Ever since the British installed the first telegraph office in Colombo, we have always been ahead of our immediate neighbors in telecommunications. And so it continues till today, as you saw in this graph earlier. Then poor internet penetration. That is another characteristic of the immediate neighborhood. And I would like to point out that the concept of literacy has changed. Right? The 4 R's characterize literacy today, which is reading, writing, arithmetic, and retrieval. So retrieval of information has become an essential component of literacy today. And we are very weak in that aspect. Then, of course, the war. How has the war affected the telecom development? It's a small country, but unequal development, perhaps due to the war and maybe other reasons. So is this concept of having universal service still valid? So these are many questions that we have to ask. And research on this telecom and economy outdates fast. Many of this research that is available, maybe done in 2008 or so, is no longer valid because the environment changes so fast. It's so dynamic. So we need to understand the real situation in this relationship, whether we can assume that it's uniform across the country or whether it's different in different parts of the country. So we need to look at, my feeling is that we need to take a closer look at the provincial level. So anyway, what we want is the telecom sector to accelerate economic growth. And for this, we can identify three factors. One is inclusion, more people and more services. The importance of inclusion was presented earlier too. Then more coverage, more capacity, which means more investment. And the third one is grab new opportunities that are opening up, which I call innovation. So we have 3 I's which would help accelerate economic growth together with telecommunications. So let's briefly look at some of these things. Inclusion. Let me quote Dr. Hans Vijayasuriya of Dialogue. He said, inclusion is a fundamental tenet of economic development. And wireless is inherently inclusive because wireless reaches everybody. It's not a wired technology where you have to draw a wire to each person. Wireless is in the air, so it is inherently inclusive. And what is this inclusive concept? It is make products, in terms of telecommunications, make products available and affordable to as many as possible. That is the inclusive concept in telecommunications. And as opposed to exclusive consumer orientation, which is to make products available to those who can afford. Right? So inclusive consumer orientation, inclusive development of telecommunications is what would spur economic development. And in telecommunications products, inclusion...
You have only 2 minutes.
Okay. Inclusion has 4 characteristics, like age, affinity. Affinity is it has to appeal to some part of the community. Affordability is low income segments, which is called the bottom of the pyramid, like Ajit talked about, here too we have a bottom of the pyramid, and it has to be affordable to this segment of people, and then the coverage and the reach or availability or accessibility has to be there, and applicability, which means meaningful value addition. So if these 4 characteristics are satisfied, that particular product will be inclusive. And telecommunications is a inclusive technology in fact all technologies are inclusive by definition, because technology develops by looking at these 4 characteristics. So this particular result shows what the bottom of the pyramid in Sri Lanka, which is 44% of the population, has what kind of access they have to telecommunications. And you can see 75% of this group has access to a mobile phone, whereas computer is really low. So this gives us some indication about the status, affordability. Phone is affordable to a lot more people than the computer. And also we are now in the post-PC era. The device which is attractive today in various ways is the mobile device. And this again brings us to internet on the mobile. We have low internet penetration, so let's have internet on the mobile. And that brings us to the requirement for effective mobile broadband. And also the Sri Lankan population is very tech savvy. They are able to adopt new technologies, new services very easily. As this study shows, the purple bars are for the Sri Lankan, for Sri Lanka, and you can see that Sri Lankans are ahead in their awareness of services that are available on phones and computers. So we can make use of this fact. It is a big opportunity to innovate, and but the reason that we have not triggered this kind of applications is perhaps a lack of content. And a very good example to learn from is the African continent, where people have really got into this business of providing all kinds of innovative services on telecommunications. So let me skip this because it has been talked about. So what are the opportunities for innovation? We have mobile devices, lowering costs and increasing capabilities. And the bottom of the pyramid, as I said before, increased productivity and earning capacity of this bottom of the pyramid is a big opportunity. Then opening up of the northern and eastern regions, as we discussed earlier also, new unexplored markets and competition. And then another opportunity is expected boom in the tourism sector. This can be made use of to provide lots of new expansion in the telecom sector. And also increasing energy costs. Less travel, more work. There is another opportunity there for telecom development. So all these things, coverage, capacity, accessibility, innovation, content, those are the key factors of making use of all these opportunities. So let me conclude. Telecommunications and economic growth is really a combination of factors such as these: infrastructure, education, training, business opportunities, and regulation. So what does infrastructure give? It gives us coverage, capacity, and accessibility. And business opportunities give us the ability to innovate, to generate content. And effective regulation gives competition and growth in the industry. And education and training of the workforce gives us the opportunities to exploit the true potential of telecommunications. So it is a combination of all these factors that would result really in a very productive relationship between telecommunications and economic growth. So thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.